Welcome to Duskveil. Tonight, we open the doors to homes that should have stayed empty. 3 true Airbnb horror stories, where the guests weren't the only ones inside. Turn off the lights. Lock your doors. This is Duskveil. Julia arrived at the Airbnb apartment just before dusk. The sky was fading into that cold orange-gray that happens before rain. The building stood in silence, a 5-story pre-war structure with ivy climbing across cracked brick. The host, Arthur, had texted her hours earlier. "Welcome, Julia. Keys under the mat. Room 4 is yours." She smiled. The staircase smelled of wood polish and something faintly metallic, like old pipes and nostalgia. The apartment was charming but dim. Wooden floors, lace curtains, and the faint scent of lavender air freshener trying to hide dust. But the first thing that drew her eye was the mirror. It was enormous, stretching almost from floor to ceiling. The black, carved frame looked Victorian, almost funeral-like. Julia stood in front of it, straightened her jacket, and smiled at her own reflection. She turned to unpack her bag and noticed, in the edge of her vision, the reflection hadn't turned with her. The rain began at midnight. Julia lay in bed, listening to the steady rhythm against the window. It was soothing until she heard another rhythm, tap, tap, tap. She turned. The mirror caught the faint orange light from a street lamp outside. Something shimmered inside it like movement. The lamp flickered. The power didn't go out, but the air in the room grew heavier, colder. Julia whispered to herself, "It's just the storm." Then came the whispering. It was soft, layered, like 2 people speaking in another room. Only the sound came from the mirror itself. Julia froze, gripping her blanket. The words were impossible to understand, breathy, distorted, until one of them formed clearly. Julia, her name. Julia stood, trembling, and walked toward the mirror. Her reflection looked wrong, pale, wide-eyed, mouth slightly open as if breathing. Then it smiled. Julia didn't. Her body froze. The sound of the rain muted instantly, as if the world outside stopped. "Who are you?" she whispered. The reflection tilted its head and slowly raised a hand. It pointed behind her. Julia turned. The room was empty. When she faced the mirror again, the reflection was gone, but the mirror fogged from the inside, and in the mist, words appeared. "You're home." The next morning, the host arrived. Julia's car was still parked outside. He knocked. No answer. Inside, everything was neat, curtains closed, but the mirror was missing its reflection. Arthur touched the glass. It was cold, wet from the inside, and for a split second, his own reflection smiled back with Julia's face. The drive to Lakeview cabin took longer than expected. Sarah and her boyfriend, Daniel, had rented it for the weekend, a quiet escape after months of city noise and exhaustion. The GPS lost signal miles before they arrived. The last stretch of road wound through dense pine forest, shadows flickering under the car's headlights like they were alive. When the trees finally opened up, the lake appeared still, dark, and infinite. The cabin sat near the water's edge, old wooden walls, faded green shutters, and a rusted tin roof. "It's perfect," Sarah said. But Daniel didn't answer. He was staring at the second floor, at a single window with curtains drawn tightly shut. Inside, the cabin smelled of pine and dust. The living room was cozy, 2 chairs by the fireplace, a small bookshelf, and family photos left by the owner. Sarah wandered upstairs while Daniel brought in their bags. There were 3 doors on the second floor. 2 opened Esley bedroom and bathroom. The third, at the end of the hallway, didn't budge. She tried the handle again. Locked. "Maybe it's storage," Daniel called up, but when she pressed her ear against the wood, she heard something, a slow, rhythmic sound. Tap, 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 like someone gently knocking from the other side. The rain began after midnight. Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay awake, listening to the drops striking the roof, and the faint sound of footsteps above them. But there was no floor above their room, only the attic, locked and sealed. Daniel stirred beside her. "What's wrong? Do you hear that?" she whispered. He listened. Silence, then creak, like someone shifting their weight across the ceiling. "It's the wind," he said, though he didn't sound convinced. They tried to sleep, but Sarah swore that, sometime after 3 a.m., she heard breathing coming from inside the wall behind their bed. The next morning, Daniel went outside to check the generator. Sarah decided to take another look at the locked door. This time, the handle turned easily. The room inside was empty, except for a single chair facing the window. The floorboards creaked beneath her feet. Dust swirled in the sunlight like slow-moving ghosts. Then she saw the marks, scratches along the inside of the doorframe, deep, frantic, like fingernails dragged across wood, and a word etched repeatedly into the wall: "Stay." She ran downstairs. "Daniel," she shouted, but the lake outside was empty, no sign of him. Then came the sound again, footsteps, slow, heavy, descending from upstairs. Sarah froze near the door, every instinct telling her to run. The floorboards creaked one last time, and a shadow moved across the wall. "Daniel," she whispered. A pause. Then, a man's voice. "Not Daniel's. You shouldn't have opened it." The police arrived 2 days later. A fisherman had found the cabin door open, the car still parked out front. Inside, no sign of struggle. 2 cups of coffee on the table, one still warm. The only thing out of place was the upstairs room. The door had been nailed shut again and carved into the wood. In fresh scratches were 3 new letters: S.A.R. When Evan booked the seaside Airbnb in early spring, he was just looking for peace. The listing showed a small white house overlooking the water, framed by overgrown grass and an old wooden fence. The host, Margaret, had dozens of 5-star reviews. Every one of them described her as kind, warm, and unseen. The key was waiting under a shell-shaped rock by the porch. Inside, the place smelled faintly of salt and flowers, or maybe something older. There were family photos on the walls, but each face was blurred, as if caught mid-motion. He dropped his bag, opened the curtains, and watched the tide roll in. It was the quietest place he'd ever been, maybe too quiet. The house had 2 floors. The host's message had been simple: "You'll have the whole place to yourself. Just don't go upstairs." Evan laughed when he read it. Probably just storage, he thought. That night, the sea breeze hummed through the old walls. He was writing on his laptop when he heard the faint creak of footsteps. Above him, he froze. Another step, slow, measured. He called out, "Hello." No answer. The sound stopped. Then something dragged across the floor upstairs. Heavy, scraping, deliberate. He checked his phone. No signal. The next morning, sunlight poured into the kitchen like nothing happened. Evan almost convinced himself it was the wind. But when he looked at the ceiling, he noticed something he hadn't before. A small outline of a door, a crawlspace hatch, nearly invisible against the plaster. He dragged a chair beneath it and climbed up. His fingers brushed metal, a latch. It moved easily. The hatch opened. The smell hit him first. Dampness, sea salt, and something faintly rotten. He shone his phone's flashlight upward. There were footprints in the dust. Bare, human footprints, leading to a rocking chair, and it was moving. Evan barely slept that night. Every hour, he woke to faint creaks and distant sea wind. Around 2 a.m., his lamp flickered. He turned and froze. Someone was standing in the doorway. A woman, tall and thin, her hair gray and tangled, wearing an old blue housecoat. She didn't move. Evan whispered, "Margaret." The woman smiled, but her mouth didn't move with the smile. Her eyes stayed blank. Then, in a broken voice, she whispered, "You're in my room." The lamp burst. The room went black. By morning, Evan had packed his things. He drove straight to the nearest police station, pale and shaking. The officer listened quietly, then asked for the address. He typed something on his computer, frowned, and said, "Sir, that house burned down 3 years ago. The owner, Margaret Doyle, died upstairs." Evan felt his stomach drop. "That's impossible," he whispered. "I stayed there last night." The officer looked at him for a long time, then turned his monitor. On the screen was the same Airbnb listing, but it had been marked inactive since 2020. Evan returned weeks later. He didn't know why, maybe to prove it was real. The path to the coast was overgrown, the air still carrying that salt-heavy quiet, but the house was gone. Only the foundation remained, scorched, cracked, covered in weeds. Something glinted near the center. He stepped closer and found a small silver key, shaped like a shell. He picked it up, and from the trees behind him, a woman's voice whispered, "Check-in time was yesterday."
A Duskveil production.
If you enjoy this story, stay with us. There are more nights and more voices waiting to be heard. Subscribe to Duskveil if you dare.